Welcome to another episode of Omni Athlete. You're here because, like us, you believe that sport is a vehicle for elevating global consciousness. But you know that elevating consciousness through sport only matters if it actually helps you to compete at your highest level. We created this show to empower your performance with the wisdom and techniques of the world's highest achieving mind, body, and spirit competitors. Okay, so today's guest is a world champion bodybuilder, entrepreneur, certified clinical hypnotherapist, as well as a craniosacral and reiki practitioner. In 1986, she became the first woman ever to win all four of the major amateur titles for female bodybuilding in the same year, winning the California State, USA Women's Bodybuilding Championship, National Women's Bodybuilding Championship, and Miss Universe. In 1988, she won the Miss International title, now known as the Arnold Classic, and over the course of her career appeared on the cover of such prestigious health and fitness publications as Muscular Development, Muscle and Fitness, and Flex Magazine. These successes were far from a sure thing, however. Having been raised in a fundamentalist religious cult, it took every ounce of energy she had to break from the dogmatic beliefs she was raised with to find her authentic spirit and an inner resilience that transcends even sport. It's my pleasure to introduce to Omni Athlete the award-winning author of Conscious Fitness, Strength Training for the Evolution of Body, Mind, and Spirit, Catt Tripoli. Welcome to the show, Catt.
Thank you so much, Josh. That was lovely.
It's an honor to have you on the show. We were just talking about how we weave. We're going to dive right in real fast.
Good.
And
I love that.
We were just talking about weaving in more of the spiritual components of lifting, of health of the body into a place, into a gym setting. And the question that came to mind for me is, how do people that maybe haven't been exposed to the body and bodybuilding, lifting as a spiritual practice of any sort, respond when you maybe initiate them or open that door, so to speak, if those are the right words, for, hey, there's something bigger happening here when you lift that weight?
Well, I think for people at that level, I think the level that you're referencing, like you said, people who have no idea of the connection, taking them actually through it. The book is a lovely vehicle, Conscious Fitness, a lovely vehicle. But until you can actually get somebody to experience what you're talking about through the body, literally feel that how just changing one thought changes what you're feeling in your body without moving a foot stance, without moving, the weight angle, without just the slightest little difference in how you're thinking translates to this profound difference that you feel in your body. Once that happens, I've got them. Yeah. Once that happens, I've got them, because they're like, what was that? Right? What the heck was that? I'm like, yeah, I know, it's pretty cool, huh? And it's really, I get excited. In my gyms, people always say that we know you're here because we can hear you training somebody. And I'll go, yes. And they're like, oh my God, it's really cool when you feel that, how you actually have so much more command over your body than you think you have. The story you've been told is not accurate, right? We're born into these bodies. Nobody tells us about them, really. Unless you're really, really involved in, have a passion for it at a very young age, and you want to become a doctor, or you want to become an athletic trainer, that's been in you for a long time. Other than that, because then you go seek out the knowledge.
Right.
But other than that, we just cruise through. The heart pumps, the feet walk, everything, the blood goes through the body. We don't think about what is actually happening on a moment-to-moment basis. And that's what I'm trying to do, is plug you in so that you become so familiar with your body, you can actually see that what this is a physical manifestation for moving the spirit about reality so that we can experience it, right? Experience reality. Otherwise, we're just ahead. Right? But we feel all these things through the body. And if I can connect you purposefully, all of a sudden the world really does start to open up a little bit more.
So one of the things that you've talked about, and this is fascinating to me in a couple ways, as a football player, weightlifter and then as a martial artist, my relationship with listening to my body it has been really unique. And I'm probably fortunate to have a deeper connection naturally there through the martial arts than most athletes. And I heard you mention one time that, when you're lifting, if you go in, you're really trying to listen to what the body is speaking to you with that day, right? If you're under the squat rack and you decide instead of doing 3 reps or 3 sets, you're going to do 8, just because it feels aligned with the way that your body's speaking, the feeling that you're getting. Where did that connection to the sensation and being able to interpret what that means and how to lean into it, where did that come from for you?
Wow. I think it's from mostly just observing, being a hyper observant person. I mean, if you've been around me any time at all, people will go, how did you see that? How did you know that? I'm like, I just happen to be very observant. Yeah. So I always felt when I was in the gym, I'm trying to get the most out of this workout today. I'm not planning for the next one tomorrow. Right. I'm here today. Now, if I'm going to get the most out of that workout, what do I have to do to make that happen? So if my body it's feeling a little bit off, say in a squat, something that's that complex, that day, then, maybe I'm going to be better served by going to something that's more stable. I can push into it and lean into it a little bit, but if you're tuned in and your body's going, just down there at the base of my spine, I feel a little of this. Yeah. Okay, maybe I should pay attention to that. Josh, have you been injured ever in your sports?
Sure.
Did you ever, looking back, have that moment that you thought, God, why didn't I listen a minute ago when my body was trying to tell me, and I went, no, I can do it, right? Absolutely. And you ended up getting injured. So I had a client for many years who was a tough guy, right? And I took him on. I said, but you're going to have to listen to me. You don't, if I'm going to be your coach, you got to listen to what I'm saying. Yeah. And he would always do things when I tell him, okay, stop. I don't want you doing that. And he'd say, but I can do it. I said, that's not the point. The point is what I'm seeing tells me that you can't do it the way I want you to do it today. And if that can't happen, then I'm putting you at risk and you're putting your own body at risk, right? We are fluid creatures. We come into each workout, into each body part that day in a completely different body than we were last week, right? I mean, you think about it. I mean, every 7 years, we are literally a completely different person. Yeah. Though every cell in our body has been exchanged. Yeah. So if you recognize, again, coming back to what are we listening to? If you recognize that, if you start learning about your body, you recognize that and you go, hey, you know what? I'll go with what I have today. That's more efficient than, now that doesn't go so far though as to stay on the couch.
Right. So
because that could get pushed out. It's like, yeah, you know what my body says today? Hang it on the couch. Yeah, no, you want to lean in a little bit. But I think you have to pay attention and really start connecting. And by using these techniques, you do start connecting to where you're on a more intimate basis with your own physical being.
It's such an interesting dynamic because more often than not, what we end up celebrating, whether it's intentionally or not, especially in sport, as you go from high school, college, and then to professional levels, right? You see the celebration of athletes that can play through pain, that can, it appears to just, disassociate with the trauma that their body's going through to finish the play, to finish the game, to finish the season, whatever the case may be. And what we're learning is that might be a very short-sighted way to just view training in our body. And I wonder, how do you coach people to balance the ego of knowing it's not going to necessarily always be what you think you should do today, but if you're really in tune with your body, it's going to be better for you over the long term?
I use a rolled up newspaper right over the nose. Whap, whap, whap. No, no, no. No. Sometimes
Good to
I
know.
feel like that's what I'm doing, especially with men. No insult at all meant, but the testosterone thing, it does have a whole unique place in your physiology. But I think what happens for me is it comes back to, oh God, this is so broad based. It comes back to honor. In honor of your physical being, honor of your body, and that we're not here to beat it into submission. We're here to partner with it as an ally in our journey. And if we ignore, there's a whole chapter in the book on pain. As a bodybuilder, we have to go through pain barriers. Now, that's a very different thing than what you're talking about, because that is in a controlled setting where I'm clear on where I am, and the type of pain that I'm experiencing is a discomfort that I can still move through safely. When you're on a football front line and your knee is tweaked, and it's hanging by a thread, and you're like, I can do it. And then it goes. That's not honor. The pain is there as a feedback loop. It's there for your body to communicate with you that maybe we should stop now. So understanding those different levels of pain is very important, in my opinion. I think, and I've said this a million times, I'm very blessed that bodybuilding was the first sport I found. Because there is this internal thing, at least there was for me, that, I had to push through barriers, yes, but I had to stay healthy for the next workout. I had to make sure that my body wasn't so torn down that I left it there all on the floor when I left. Because if I did and I couldn't come back, if I was to tear a muscle or push beyond, some space I should not push into, then I can't train again the next day. And ours is sort of a different goal, right? We don't have that. We have competitions, yes, but those aren't really physical. It's a weird sport in my mind, right? Once you get into the competitions stage, you're not into that physical part. Which is really weird. Whereas if you're a football player, basketball player, skier, or gosh, I can't think of any other sport that's like that, to be truthful. You have to leave it all on the table at that game, because it's like, if you didn't do what you were supposed to do, then you're the bad guy. Look at what we've done with CrossFit. I mean, CrossFit's done some good stuff for us in that it's really brought. They had such a marketing budget, and that they've really brought lifting weights sort of back up. The problem is, what do they tell you? Bleed for it. Bleed, leave it. You got hurt. Too bad. Suck it up. Well, how does that feel? Is that really honor? And all the guys that I know like that, in their 50s, 40s, 50s and 60s, they're walking with canes. They've got hip replacements, knee replacements, shoulder replacements. They're a mess. Is that honor?
So the question that comes up for me, this is so interesting, Catt. So honor versus weakness. And right now it seems like we confuse these terms, especially in sport. But I would really say it's probably a much more global cultural confusion, the difference between weakness and honor. How do you separate those two?
Oh boy, that's a tough question, but I agree with you 100%. Again, I think working with individuals at this level, if you can get them to understand, the physical body is not here forever, and how you treat it and how you respect it. The foods you put in, the water you drink, the air you breathe, how you work out. I think it can tune you into that difference a little bit better. But it's like anything else. It's like your martial arts. It's practice. Right. You don't come in to be a perfect, right? You come in for practice. And on a global scale, my gosh, look what we're dealing with now, right? That we think yelling and screaming and pushing and shoving is strength.
Right.
When in fact it's the exact opposite of strength, it's fear. And, I think you have a better feel for it, like I said, because of the martial arts. I think that's one of the first things they teach you, isn't it? Is to walk away, because that's strength, that's power. Right? So I don't know how we're gonna separate those two things. I mean, we're not going to solve that one here today. But I think for those people who are thoughtful and who really want to see the world become a better place, that starting with understanding, who we are as humans is how we're going to do that. Studying the nature, for that matter.
Yeah.
Right? And study how other sentient beings deal sometimes with, how they fit into the chain, the cycles, right? When they go hibernate, when they come out and eat, all of this has helps us to connect with that, to make that differentiation.
So one of the really fascinating aspects of your book is when you were in one section of the book, you're talking about the different bodies we have, right? From the spiritual teacher that you had, that introduction to, we have a spiritual body, we have a mental body, we have an emotional body, we have a physical body. And what it sounded like, if I remember correctly, you were encouraged to do was associate not a particular animal totem with you as a whole, but with your different bodies. I had never heard that before, and that seemed so energizing to me, because there seems, especially as athletes, we are so connected at times to our body that we recognize the difference between the energy of my body and the energy of my mind, or the just spiritual energy that I embody. That might be a horse or an eagle, that might be a bear, or it was really energizing to hear those separate but whole, and how they could each have their own unique signature.
Well, right. God bless my spiritual teachers, because really they informed what I do a lot more than I thought. At the time I'm like, why am I not getting this? I don't, and then all of a sudden it comes pouring out of you, right? Yeah. Very cool. But I think what we have to realize is that, yes, you're absolutely right. What you read was correct. That each body has a different need, a different want. Those two things are also different. What does it need versus what does it want? Now, so then let's say you've got, physical body that wants to be a bear, but your emotional body is a hummingbird that day. Right. Those two, while separate, have to get along. So deals have to be made. Okay, so let me give you an example. Let's say that, I squatted 250 yesterday or last week, and today's my day. In my mind, I'm going to hit a PR of 275. Okay? And as I'm working, I have a fight with my significant other. My mind, my mental energy, my emotional energy is a little mouse in the corner. Okay. I have to go into that gym that day and say, well, I'm going to go do squats. But, my mouse is screaming a little bit louder than my bear is roaring. Physical is still there. It didn't leave you. Right. But this over here cannot be ignored. The little mouse can't be ignored. So we have to make a deal in there somewhere, right? But you've got to first be able to recognize that. And allow the mouse to, can we quiet you down today safely, or do you need attention? And so maybe I come in and I do a little bit lighter workout, because otherwise my energy is leaked out. It's leaked out somewhere else. That's honor to me. If you can corral that, that's also great, but it doesn't always work. And that's usually when you get hurt. So for me, I want to make sure that these these things are allies and they're helping one another.
Do you think for most athletes, they are, when we talk about disintegration, right, or that lack of wholeness, is that where it comes from? These different bodies not being aligned and allies in that sense?
I believe that's exactly right. We because we ignore, we're very physical, which makes sense, right? I mean, it makes sense. We're walking around in these bodies, and whether or not you're an athlete, maybe you think you need plastic surgery, or maybe, whatever it is, we're very grounded in these bodies, but we still don't know about them too much because we're not being informed by the higher levels. And we need these higher levels to fully integrate and understand why our bodies want this or want that, or, does that make sort of sense to you? Yes, you have to mesh those things together. And we haven't taught anybody how to do this. I was lucky, I was very lucky that I happened on these teachers. And they weren't teaching me to inform me on my competitions or, my physical or my workouts for that matter. It ended up, they were teaching me what it means to be a fully human being on this planet. That's what their whole goal was. What does it mean to be a human being? Okay. And luckily, I took that and translated it out into what I do in the gym as well.
So in timelining, was this spiritual growth you were going through during the height of your competitive time? And if it wasn't, what did you do as a competitor to align those different bodies?
No, I didn't have the name, the language.
Yeah.
I didn't have the language until after I was done competing. I think, again, if I think about it, it's probably because I'm such an observant person that in my workouts, what just came to me? And this is true. I'm a little bit of a scaredy cat, right? You boys trip me out because you will throw yourself, throw your physical body into, you without regard for anything. I didn't get to, because of the cult, I didn't get to compete in sports. So I had a little bit of trepidation about how am I going to look? I'm going to look like an idiot? I'm going to, when I finally got around to athletics. And then on top of that, I had the fear of being hurt. It was a healthy enough fear that I was always aware of where I was in space at every moment. I was always, I was focused on it. I was very focused on it. So luckily, like I said, bodybuilding was the first thing I came to, lifting weights. And, it was just this constant inquiry in my mind, as I recall it, just this constant, what's happening here? And can I shore that up a little bit there? And, what am I trying to do here? And if I want to make this particular muscle grow, I don't want to make it grow up here, but I want to make it grow a little bit lower. You see the questions? It's inquiry. It's constant curiosity about what I may or may not be capable of.
So what kept you, or maybe a different way to ask it would be, once you started to feel the feedback loop of that inquiry, what kept you able to hold the tension of that healthy fear and still that ability to continue to push? Because one of the recurring themes, right, is push the weight, right? Is to push and to see where those boundaries really are. Yes. Yet you have a healthy fear that kept you in that inquiry. So what did you do to hold the space in between?
For what happens is, for one thing, you always knew where you were going every second. Your movements are not CrossFit style movements. They're not snappy, jerky. That's where injury happens. If you're controlled and coming down in a squat and you're pushing into the squat rather than dropping into the squat, it's a very different thing. Very different thing. So beyond that, I always had planned a bailout. In other words, either I had a spotter, and I would tell that, be very specific with that spotter. If you see me slow down this much, you need to either take it from me or help me up. Okay. One of the, I was that specific depending on the lift. If I was by myself, I always knew where my bailout was if I was going to try that last rep. Okay, so let's say I'm headed into a bench press and I get 8 reps and I can feel that 8th one is pretty tough.
Yeah.
Think maybe I can get 2 more, but I'm going to regroup. And see, I can do that in what I do, right? So I will come up to the top of the motion, lock out, check in with my body and see, do I have any diffuse thought?
Yeah.
Sounds like it takes a long time. It really doesn't. Is there any diffuse thought? Is my energy leaking out anywhere? Yeah. Reset my body, commit, and visualize those next 2 reps. Take a big deep breath and try them. And that always works. Now, I have bailed out of something before, but it was such a controlled bailout, there was never a problem. Because I knew where I would bail out. So bailouts are like, if you're in a squat rack and you have rack up here, you take it off the rack, but down below you are rails.
Sure.
Right, that you might be a little bit lower than your squat. So I've come down in a squat without a spotter before and just, that's not going to go, and just brought it down, sat it on the rails, crawled out from underneath it. Again, it's a very controlled thing.
Oh yeah, and what is the role of breath in being able to hold that connection to your body? And I've heard you speak about being able to literally choose where in your body you want to send the oxygen to when you're lifting, right? And
yes,
it seems like the connection to your breath that you've cultivated is the exact same level of awareness as a yogi, as anybody who would cultivate that same level of breath through maybe a more traditional spiritual practice, right? But it's the same connection that you've built.
It's absolutely the same connection. I just happen to have done it in a physical way that happens to be connected with strength training, with iron. It is very important, the breath, because I think it directs your energy. I mean, it literally directs your energy. So usually if you think about it, most people, if you lift weights and you think about it, what gives up first? I was always asking that. Is this my mind giving up, or is this my actual body giving up? What conversation are they having, right? And if you listen, you'll hear so much chatter come in. When you're starting to push that envelope, you're like, oh my God. It's like, shut up, okay? So that's why I come up to the top of a motion or in a stretch or wherever it might be, and take that second to bring my energy that just went, shoo, right? Because things are screaming at you, and bring that back in. And because I figure everything being energy, Josh, if I'm like this, I've got this diffuse light. It's like a photography diffusion, right? But if I can take my mind, and bring it in, then what I have again is a laser that I can then direct into the muscle that I'm using.
When was the first time that you felt the power of being able to direct your attention in such a focused way into your muscles?
I don't know if I could put my finger on that a perfect time. It's been developed over time.
Yeah.
But I just fell in love with it so quick. And I think especially being, like I say in the book, so many things informed this practice, honestly. So many things informed it. And one was literally coming from a cult. Because, all of a sudden I had power.
Right.
Yeah, I had strength. I was a little girl, but I was like, oh gosh, I can actually push this weight. Yeah. And then the moment when, I don't know, maybe you're looking for a goal and you say, I really want to bench 100 pounds, and you can't bench 100, and you can't bench 100, and you can't bench 100. And then one day you're benching 100 and you go, wow, this really works. This is crazy, right? And so you go to the next goal and the next goal and the next goal. And I never really had good boundaries in terms of what I thought was impossible.
Yeah.
You know, I thought, well, I mean, to this day, I'm 60 years old and I'm still pushing up 70-pound dumbbells and squatting, 215 and deadlifting 225 for reps. And I'm thinking, people go, holy crap, that's crazy. And I go, really? You mean, really? Everybody doesn't do, so it's kind of a silly kind of ignorance in a way, that I don't put those social boundaries up that say, this is what society says you should be at 60, or, this is, you shouldn't be able to pick that up. I keep thinking, if I keep doing what I'm doing, where does that iron curtain fall?
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden you do, and then you do not. Right? So I figure if I can keep myself healthy and I keep coming to the gym like I've done for 30 years, then and if there is a line there, is it going to be that dramatic?
Yeah.
I just can't see, unless some catastrophic, accident happens, which God forbid, I hope it doesn't. But I've seen so many people do so many things they were told they could not do, and I'm kind of tired of it. I'm kind of sick of hearing that. I'm tired of what the medical community tells us. And I have a very dear friend who was trained with me for quite a while. Now we're simply doing a lot of hypnotherapy because he has ALS, was diagnosed about 3 years ago. Yeah. And back in March, they told him he had 2 weeks to live.
Wow.
Okay, 2 weeks. And I said, okay, I'll be here every day to do your healing with you, your hypnosis. And he said, okay. Well, long story short, I do hypnosis with him every other day now. And this is the end of November. Okay, this is in the beginning of March. All right. Now, here's where the story ties in. About 3 weeks ago, he had the doctor, he was with the VA, he's a veteran, so VA doctor come and say, do their normal exam. And they said, well, you really surprised us. You really, really surprised us. You're doing way better than we thought you were going to be doing. Mm-hmm. And he said, yeah, thanks. And she said, but you're not going to beat this, right? Why? What is now, thank God his mind is stronger than that, because I've worked with him for probably 15 years. Yeah. Thank God. But why? What is excuse my language, goddamn point of saying that and planting that seed when all she had to do was stop right there and tell him what a miracle he was and how powerful his mind was, and go for it. Go for it. I mean, he's got his stuff in order. He got it all. He's a smart man. He got it all in order a long time ago. He doesn't need you to tell him that he can't make it. Hell, none of us are going to get out alive. Right. Yeah, we're not going to beat this. You're absolutely right. Or maybe we'll. Maybe we become brand new humans with this. Look where we're pushing ourselves, man. I mean, we've got stronger, faster, better. We're doing stuff. I mean, I'm watching these guys taking snowmobiles and flipping them around. I'm like, how do you practice that even? Right? I mean, there's some crazy stuff. We are becoming a new human. Whether we can survive what we're doing to the environment is another matter entirely. We'll talk about that some other time. But if we could, where are we headed? So where it's just like me saying, if I keep doing what I'm doing, is there going to be some curtain that drops and all of a sudden I'm bedridden? Same thing here. If we keep pushing out, there's going to be a point where you couldn't do it, and then all of a sudden the human can do it.
So as you reflect on coaches and mentors that you've had in your life, what have been a phrase or two or a moment or two that come to mind when you think of people who, unlike that individual, who really allowed you to see what was possible, not where your limits might be?
You're going to really hate me for this one. I don't think there was.
Wow.
It was me. It was me using all the things that were informing me. I didn't have really a coach. I mean, I had some people that showed me some stuff. I did a lot of reading. And again, that's all on technique, you know. But I've examined that a lot. I don't know where that comes from. Yeah. I really don't. Probably from books that I've read and miracles that I've read about. I don't even like calling them miracles, really, but unordinary things that have happened to people. And I keep thinking, I'm curious. I'm like, oh my gosh, what if I could use my mind? I mean, you did that when you were a kid, right? Yeah. I didn't get to do that when I was a kid. I got to do it when I was an adult. Yeah. But I could walk through that wall. That would be really, that would be really cool. So I didn't have that imagination. I wasn't allowed that imagination when I was a kid. But, as an adult, I had it. So I would read things about, a car running over a child, and the mother runs out and in a panic lifts the car. Someone who isn't strong, who doesn't lift weights. That's real. Those are all documented things. So the physiology is there inherent in the human animal. The only thing that doesn't connect is the mind. So in that panic, the chemicals that the mind produced of adrenaline and all of that allowed this woman to, without harm to herself, pick up this car off this child. That, to me, that's all I need. That's all I need. That opens up a wide, wide world for me and saying, what's possible? I mean, look at what's the fastest mile now? We broke the 4 minute, didn't we? Okay, way back when, Jesse, where was that line? Evolution keeps pushing that way. So why not me?
Yeah. Catt, what's so incredible, and I'm really curious to see where this takes us. What has been your journey with self-love and really building that? Because what I hear and feel is just this genuine, why not me, right? And the only way we can say questions like that, I believe, is if we just have that sense of wholeness and that foundation that says we are loved regardless of what the answer to the question is. So why not just ask it and then see what happens? What has that journey been like for you?
What is that? It's been a wrestling match. I think maybe that's why this is so appealing to me, is because when I am in that space, Josh, I don't question anything. I fully and totally trust who I am in that moment. Yeah. When I walk out of that space, that may be a different animal, to be truthful, and that is something I struggle with. And, but I keep working at it, maybe that's the athlete in all of us, is that we keep going, well, it's not like there's a there. It's like when I get there, then I'll be perfect. I'll be fine with myself and I'll really love myself. I've struggled with what it really means to love oneself without ego, right? Because we have a hard time with that too, to say, I appreciate it. So I think coming into the reality of each day and practicing, what does that mean, and continuing to reach out, but having those moments, that hour for me or that hour and a half for me in the day that is in my space, that I'm perfectly content with what I'm trying to break into, right? I'm trying to push out. Every day I go to that gym for 30 years. I'm not going to make people go, well, you're just maintaining now, right? You're just here to maintain. No, I'm never here to maintain. I'm always here to grow. But that's like, I guess it would be for someone who could sit in meditation. That would be like an hour of meditation for them. That's what this is for me. It's in that space where you find your perfection at that moment. It's just that moment. You're being fully human. And that's why we're here, to be fully human. And I can do that in that hour and a half. And that's probably why I don't completely lose my mind, is because I can stay grounded that way. You've heard it probably a million times. I know you've done it. You're an athlete. So you're like, this, and I feel like I'm scared to death. I'm going to lose my house and lose my dogs and, lose my friends. And, I'm not going to have any money. All that goes away in that set, in those movements. It all goes away because I need to be fully present. And that's what meditation is, being fully present in being, right? And in that moment of my being, I can be fully present.
There is such a powerful energy there, because what we talk about with meditation is exactly what you said, right? It's being present, and it's being, if we kind of take it to the fullest expression, it's that being present with that universal and collective consciousness, right? That divinity, that spirit, whatever we want to call it, it's being present with that. And what I find so energizing is you've found that same level of presence by moving your body, right? Which I know for a lot of athletes, the gap in developing the spiritual body and even developing the mental body at times is it seems different than what they have to do to develop their physical body. And because of that, there becomes a disconnect. And if you're a coach, oh my gosh, you're now trying to build two bridges, right? You're trying to get them into two different places rather than being able to say, no, it's all the same. You're building.
It's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same. And that's what I think that people have the hardest time with, is that, yes, we are separateness. No, we're actually not. Yes, there's a mental, an emotional, a physical, a spiritual body, but it's above that, right? That, like you just said, you used the word a little while ago, integration happens. And once those bodies are all integrated, even though they are not completely one, they're integrated, right? Then everything works better. Everything works better. I mean, I can't tell you, we could stay here for days, honestly. But, I think one of our biggest problems right now with who we are as people, how our thinking is right now, is partially due to poor malnutrition. People like some of us, probably the people watching your show, that look at these people who are Trump supporters, i.e., I hate to get political. I don't mean to. I'm just trying to point out something here. Mm-hmm. We go, God, how can they think like this? I mean, it's right in front of their eyes. How can they be so dumb? Right? That's not the right thing to say. However, you do have to come into the humanness of it and say, where is the disconnect? And is it possible that simply not giving people a nutritious, healthy diet, especially from a young age, is not allowing them to be the fullest expression of their self that they can be? We're not, look what we're stuffing our faces with McDonald's and Burger King and Carl's Jr. and In-N-Out burgers, and oh my God, I freak out going to Costco now. I look at people's baskets, I'm like, oh crap, and they've got 5 kids with them. I'm like, oh my Lord, what's going to happen to, especially the developing brain? We've got to kind of get smarter than all that, and I think if you can point out to people, starting with the physical body, this is my point. If we can get to that low level first, because like everybody laughs at me when I say this, but everybody's got a body. Everybody's got a body that they can touch and they understand. But when you talk to them about the ethereal body or the energetic body, whoa, that's woo-woo stuff. I don't want to talk about it. Yeah. So if we can get to them and give them a healthy respect for the body first, I think we have a better stab at getting them to understand the rest. I hope I didn't ramble there, but I hope that made sense. But, we just have a bigger obligation to the planet. And if I can get them into my little circle with the body first, then they might start literally embodying what they're feeling.
That phrase embody feels so aligned
Right.
for this conversation. Wow. Catt, this has been absolutely incredible. Before I ask my final question, and unfortunately it is the final question, where can these guys
No.
go? Where can these guys go to connect with you online?
Oh, you can reach me at cat.consciousfitness@gmail.com. And still haven't got my websites done. I am just a procrastinator of extreme measure. But that's always a way to get to me and ask me any questions that they might like.
Awesome. Awesome. So the final question, this show is called Omni Athlete because we want to understand what it takes to be the ultimate mind, body, and spirit competitor. So what does being an Omni Athlete mean to you?
Oh gosh, being an Omni Athlete to me is wholeness. It's finding our truest, highest potential as athletes, because that has, done properly, a higher purpose than just the sport itself. I really believe that. I admire every athlete. I think that what we're starting to see now is we are starting to see some of this evolutionary, athletes start to come out, don't you? I mean, the basketball coach that we had last year at the conference, he had such success with his team because of this type of training, this type of understanding that you want to be the best you can be. You know what you got to get correct is your mind. Your mind and your spirit have to be behind you 100%. I deal with it all the time in the gym. People who want to compete, that 1 week into the diet go, I'm so tired. This is really hard. I'm like, what champion have you ever heard say that? That is the wrong way of thinking. And you can't tell them that. You can't make them understand that cognitively. Yeah. You have to make them feel it. And they have to understand it, from a felt sense. It's a tough thing, but you've got to get the meditative state in there. It can't be an outward push in the gym. I know it sounds crazy because everybody loves attention in the gym, but it's got to be an inward pull rather than an outward push.
Wow. Catt, thank you for being on the show. This has been, oh my gosh. Guys, go reach out to Catt. If you haven't gotten her book yet, oh my gosh, order it today, like right now. So one of the most amazing things that Catt gives you permission to experience through this book is exactly what we just talked about, that your body is a spiritual practice. Building it, using it, learning about it, understanding, connecting with it is as much a spiritual practice as any form of meditation or yoga or martial art or anything. It is this ability to integrate ourselves wholly and to do it through a form of fitness that is literally about evolving and changing who we are. Like the work that Catt does, the energy she brings to this work, dive as deep into her world as you possibly can, because it will just give you so much permission to connect with this sensation and a feeling you already have and you already innately have connected to, especially if you're listening to this podcast. Wow. Guys, as always, dive deep into her world. And until next time, thank you for listening and watching this episode of Omni Athlete. Hey, what is up, guys? Thank you for watching another episode of Omni Athlete. Please go like and subscribe to our podcast. That is our goal right now, is just to build this community as big as we possibly can, and we need your help to do it. So like and subscribe, share our content, guys. If this content adds any value to your world, that helps you perform, connect, go deeper, go wider, whatever it is that it does for you, if it provides value, all we ask is that you share our content and help grow this community. We can't accomplish our goal of elevating global consciousness through sport without you. You are an integral part of this mission and this purpose, and we need your help. So please go like, subscribe, and share our content, and continue to help us build and grow this community that is truly motivated to not just elevate consciousness, but elevate and shift the very culture of sport so that we can truly experience the athletic experience in a brand new and energizing way for so many people, guys. So thank you, and please like and subscribe. Until next time.